Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do some more speaking feedback, this time with Hiep's test. So let's jump straight into it. Good afternoon, my name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Well, my name is Donny Hiep. You can call me Hiep.
Okay, thank you, Hiep. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam. The population
Cool, I think leave it there. I'm from Hanoi, which is the capital of Vietnam, is enough.
is around 90 million people.
Okay, the population, fine. It's relevant additional information. And do you like living in Hanoi?
Yes, of course, there are many traditional food and many parks.
Many traditional food. So food is uncountable. We don't use many. Sorry. Yeah, food is uncountable. We don't use many with uncountable nouns. Many parks, fine. Many food.
And of course, you can go to the place at the weekend and enjoy foods.
Again, foods. Foods is a plural form. We usually use food in the singular, uncountable. A lot of different types of food, maybe. And is your hometown popular with tourists?
Well, there are a lot of attraction in Vietnam,
Cool, there are. I like this. There are lots of attraction versus attractions. Again, this plurality is a problem.
There are many sculptures about heroes because we are the country with
Cool sculptures about heroes, nice.
a war time, and because of that, many people go to the displays for big
Good cohesion. Because of that, many people, blah, 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 blah. Really nice development.
pictures to show off to their friends. Yeah.
And is there anything you'd like to change about Hanoi?
Uh, Definitely about the air pollution. Recently the air pollution of Vietnam is the highest.
Recently, it is the highest. Sounds a bit strange. Recently, it has been the highest. Usually, with recently, we use some perfect tense like present perfect, continuous. Recently, it has been, right now it is. Recently, it has been. But okay, IELTS isn't really that strict about these type of grammatical accuracies. If you're teaching English, that's something you might work on. But usually with IELTS, they think, it's fine, we understand what you're talking about. They don't care too much about that type of inaccuracy.
It's very harmful for anyone to go out to their
Cool, harmful for anyone, nice vocab.
home and without their masks.
You get this without. So don't quite get this without with the sound.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about restaurants. Do you enjoy eating out at restaurants?
Oh, I do love restaurants, but
Cool. I do love restaurants. Nice adding of the auxiliary there. I do love restaurants. And nice intonation. He gets it right there. Good.
to be honest, I don't like their food. Like they are full.
But now it's a bit illogical, isn't it? I do like restaurants, but to be honest, I don't like their food. I mean, maybe you could enjoy the vibe or the atmosphere of the restaurant, the process of hanging out with friends or something, but you don't like the food that they serve. I guess it's possible.
Of calories and I'm just I am a gym rat.
So we get a bit of, and I think the candidate does have this like chaotic aspect to his fluency. You might have seen him on a live stream that I've done before, that he has that chaotic like reformulation and then like an explosion of language, like I'm a gym rat, and it's like that seems a little bit unnatural.
They're full of calories and I'm just I I'm a gym rat and I always
Okay, there's no big explosion there, but okay.
go to the gyms, so I had to eat those.
I don't know about gym rat. Gym rat is great, nice idiomatic expression. I just don't know about whether it's natural here. Do you like restaurants? Oh, actually, I'm a gym rat. It's like, well, I guess it's kind of connected, right? You don't like going to restaurants because there's too many calories, and I'm a gym rat. I guess it kind of is connected, but it feels a little bit pre-prepared.
Chickens and the high protein food, and I cannot eat those things anymore.
I don't quite understand what he's talking. Food that he can't eat food that's high in calorie. I mean, you can eat chicken if you're a gym rat.
So I don't want to.
I didn't quite get the coherence there. A little bit confusing with the coherence, but let's move on.
to the restaurants.
And how often do you eat at restaurants?
It could be about several times a month. Like only on some kind of time, some event that I have something to cheer with my father or my friends. I could go to the place for for the funny things.
Again, noticeable kind of breakdown in fluency. And do you have a favorite restaurant?
There is a restaurant in my area that's called Chinese food
Get that's chord. That difference between L and R, that chord.
with Vietnamese food, and I really love that combination.
Just slow down.
Really,
Oh,
the
sorry. Just slow down a bit with this Vietnamese food. Pronounce it clearly. Vietnamese food. We don't need to rush it with Vietnamese food. Just listen again.
really in my area that's called Chinese food with Vietnamese food, and I really
Vietnamese food, and take that with Vietnamese food. And I really like, slow down. You don't need to rush.
love that combination. Really, there are produce many good meals that I can eat.
And again, because of maybe the lack of pausing there, I'm the listener. I think it's easy to get a little bit confused what he's talking about. This some restaurant with some food and Vietnamese food, and he likes that combination. I'm just getting a little bit lost. Now let's talk about traveling. Do you like traveling?
Well, I do like traveling.
Okay, again, we get that. I do like traveling. So be careful not to overuse it. I liked when you use I do like restaurants, but then when you say I do like traveling, twice is okay. But now if we get this a third time, I'm going to start to think that this is formulaic, that this is a memorized pattern. And so, I'm not going to be that impressed by it if you overuse it.
There was a time that I went to Russia to meet my mother, and
Did he say to meet my or to met my?
the time that I went to Russia to meet my
Sounds like to met my, right? I guess that's a pronunciation mistake. It could be seen as a grammar mistake.
mother, and I went to Saint Petersburg, and
St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg. I know in Russian St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg. Just listen to the pronunciation.
time that I went to Russia to meet my mother, and I went to Saint Petersburg, and
again, St. Petersburg, and again, it's too rushed. Take that break. I went to St. Petersburg, and I. So be careful to take that pause in the right place. Not taking those pauses can put a strain on the listener, and we don't want to do that. St. Petersburg is, forgetting about everything that's going on right now. The best city in the world. But okay, let's keep going.
I saw many things that Vietnam we don't have, and of course there was a new very
Some examples. So what things were there in St. Petersburg that you don't have in Vietnam?
interesting things.
Interesting things, right? But what? I'm not informed there. And do you think it's better to have a holiday by the sea or in the mountains?
Can you repeat it?
Do you think it's better to have a holiday by the sea or in the mountains?
Well, I do think that people should have their
Again, we get that added auxiliary. I do think that people. So again, we don't use it that often in English, right? So using it once or twice is fine, but you've used this pattern now 3 times in part 1, this adding the auxiliary in present simple. Normally we say I like something, I think something, I play something. We don't usually say I do like, I do play, I do think. We use it for emphasis sometimes, and I think the first time you used it, great. But now that we've had it 3 times, it's like, okay, a little bit overused.
holiday in a mountain because you could see a lot of things in the peak of a mountain. Those sky,
Well, the peak of the mountain, that's good. That's good. Activation of topic-specific vocab, good stuff.
the blue skies, and you could even see the sea. And
again, we get this like a little bit of an explosion of energy, which just feels a little bit chaotic and unnatural.
things in the peak of a mountain. Those sky, the blue skies, and you could even see the sea. And
blue skies, and you could even see the sea, and it's like, wow, that's come out of nowhere. It's not so extreme, but it is noticeable.
You had to just sitting around in a beach and then
Beach. I don't want to get censored on YouTube.
watch the physics just in the mountain and you could see everything.
And are there any countries or any cities that you would like to go to in the future?
Um,
Candidate has this weird habit. Now, of course, he won't be marked down for this in the real test, but when you ask him a question, he kind of looks around like he's looking for the answer. This has happened a few times now. Just notice it again.
just in the mountain and you could see everything.
And are there any countries or any cities that you would like to go to in the future?
Um, I believe that is Japan.
I believe that is Japan. It seems strange to say, I believe that, right? I believe that is like when you're not sure, but you are the person, like, I believe that it's a good idea. You're not sure, but you know for sure if you want to go to Japan or not, right? So I believe that it is Japan. And also, Japan doesn't have a d or a t on the end. I believe that it is Japan. It just sounds a bit strange, but okay.
I love the culture and the customs of people in Japan. Like
Cool, the country and the customs of the people. Really nice vocab.
the people are very, very cool with their um, fictional things like anime and mangas.
Cool, really good development and giving examples. Nice.
Just want to go to place for the festivals about it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so thoughts on part one. Decent. Candidate is developing nicely in most places. A couple of areas where he could have developed more, like the things that they have in St. Petersburg that they don't have in Hanoi. Some examples would have been nice there. The flow of speech is interrupted a little bit by this kind of chaotic stuff where sometimes it doesn't pause in the right place, and sometimes there's like a small explosion of energy which makes the speech a little bit chaotic, which isn't really a natural flow, and that could both affect fluency and both fluency and pronunciation. Pronunciation, though, generally is clear. There are a couple of mispronunciations like beach, and like most candidates from Southeast Asia, there are some mispronunciations, especially with that S, foods he uses, but then there are other nouns where he should use the plural S, but he doesn't. I don't know why that happens so much that, Vietnamese candidates can produce this S sound at the end of words, but for some reason it happens so often that they use it where they don't need it and they don't use it where they need it. And it's kind of an odd thing for me to try to work out. I haven't taught students from this part of the world. I've only, listened to their English in these speaking tests. And I'm trying to figure out, like, sometimes you might speak to Russian people or Chinese people, and because you know that language, you can kind of understand where their mistakes come from. I don't know much, unfortunately, about Vietnamese language, so I can't really offer many insights into why that happens. Vocab is very strong, really topic specific language like the peak of the mountain and things like this, sculptures of famous people. So candidates vocab is noticeably strong. Grammar is okay, a couple of minor mistakes. Not a huge wide range of grammatical structures, nothing that stands out as being like, oh, that's nice. There's only that like adding of the auxiliary, I would say, which is really at that like band 7 standard, but that's the only example. So a bit more range could push him to that higher C1. So he's looking certainly, close to that band 6 at the moment. Most examiners mark it this way. After part 1, you kind of know what score the candidate is going to get mostly, or at least you put them into a window. And then for the rest of the test, you're just like, okay, yeah, that was good. I'll add a point there, or that wasn't as good as in part 1, so I'll take a point away. But let's see what the candidate has to do for part 2. He needs to describe a family member that he spends a lot of time with. So a good chance to activate some vocab connected to people, could be appearance, it could be character, also a lot of words connected to friendships, relationships, things like this, maybe even emotions perhaps. But let's see how the candidate does. Let's go about there. Family member you spend a lot of time with. I will let you know when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please?
Well, let me talk about my brother. His name
Love that start. Let me talk about my brother. Perfect. It's not memorized, or at least it's not long worded. Like sometimes you get these really long memorized introductions, like, oh, it is very difficult for me to talk about a family member that I spend a lot of time with because there are so many different possibilities. However, if I had to choose one, I would choose my brother. I feel like those overly long, practiced, rehearsed introductions aren't very good. And then sometimes people don't have any introduction at all. I love this. Let me talk about my brother. Great.
is Rivet, and
His name is Rivet. I didn't quite get it, but okay.
he has a wealthy body that I want to like go to the gym and have the same body as him.
He has a well-built body. Cool. Well-built is fine.
And he is actually my inspiration. He gave me a lot of motivation, and
He giving a lot of motivation. He gives me. He gives me.
because of that, I met a lot of good things to my
Okay, we get because of that. We've had because of that before, but that's okay. It's quite normal.
society.
I didn't quite get that point about society. Let's listen again.
Inspiration. He gave me a lot of motivation, and because of that, I met a lot of good things to my society.
I met a lot of good things to my society. I just don't know what that means. Sorry.
Like, and because of him, I studied a lot. And
Because of him, I started a lot. I don't know. Started a lot. I don't know what you mean.
we always spend a lot of time watching the videos and the films on YouTube,
And to me, I think the candidate maybe is making it up here. I don't know if it's true. I think so. One of the things one question that I've been asked quite a few times is it okay to lie in the test? Now, of course, it's okay to lie. Nobody is going to check to see if that's true or not. The problem is about cognitive load, right? When you're imagining things, when you have to create things, it puts more pressure on your brain to come up with those details. Now, if you're a very creative, imaginative person, i.e., if you're a very good liar, fine. It doesn't put too much pressure on your brain. But if lying or making up details or inventing things or imagination or creativity is new or uncomfortable or unfamiliar, you will find part two very, very difficult if you try to imagine these details. So I recommend in general, speak about something real.
we have many good series to watch together. For example, some common series like Harry Potter or something like Lord of the Rings.
Harry Potter a series? I guess it's a series of movies, isn't it?
And yeah, and you know, for me, he's not only a brother, he's also
For me, he is not only a brother.
um,
Okay, but we get this not only but also, so that's really good cohesion.
a close friend, and because of that, we never like we
So you can see, and I think maybe it's because the candidate is. I don't know if he's making up details here or not, but it is noticeable that the fluency is breaking down a little bit, right?
he's also a close friend, and because of that, we never
Becomes really staccato now, and this affects the chunking. But the chunking is still okay because of that. He's still chunking the right bits of information. So maybe this is a good example of where the fluency is weak, but the chunking is still all right.
like we will never abandon each other. And
We will never abandon each other. Pronunciation is becoming a little bit difficult to understand exactly what he's saying, but the vocab is still very strong.
furthermore, he's a guy who embraced many philosophies
He's a guy who embraces.
about the world, like about love and about war, about politics, and just very great to be.
Yeah, but we're just listing things now, right? So it's okay to list that, but go into that in detail, right? So why is this relevant? So he embraces a lot of different philosophies, especially about politics. Now link that back to how that helps you, which is great because I wasn't very interested in politics much, but then after my brother explained to me how every politics affects every aspect of our life. And so that got me more thinking. And I think that got me thinking more about this subject. And I then did my own research and I actually found out that blah, 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 blah. So just listing traits about your brother is not quite enough.
To a guy that is quite chaos like him to embrace that kind of
Guy that is quite chaotic, maybe. A guy can't be chaos, but a guy can be chaotic.
things. You also have a good
He also has. So grammar is falling down here.
education, and that's the reason why I always stick with him.
That the reason why instead of that's the reason why, I think. So we've missed a few verb to be's, we've missed a few s's, and for me, that is enough. That is enough evidence that the candidate can't reliably control basic grammar. And if you can't reliably control basic grammar, you're not going to get higher than a band 6 for grammar, at least in my book.
In every situation, I always ask him for a ride for his school and for his game friends how.
I don't know, Gim Friends Hole. I have no idea what Gim. I ask him for his Gim Friends Hole. I don't know what that means.
I really admire him and yep, glad to spend more time with him in the future.
Okay, so candidate has spoken for 2 minutes, but it doesn't really feel like there's a natural flow with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's what we're always looking for, right? Whenever you have a long turn, it doesn't matter whether it's a movie or if it's a presentation or if it's a long turn in IELTS. We want to see progression. We don't want to see stagnation, just sticking on one point. We want to see a beginning, a middle, and an end. Or at least some sense of progression. I just didn't feel like there was that. Vocab is okay, grammar is a little bit weaker here, pronunciation is also okay. I think I know what scores I'm going to give him now based on this. But thank you. But let's get to part 3. So you've been talking about this person who you spend a lot of time with. Let's talk about families now. How important is it to learn about your family's history?
Like you could learn about the disease that is in your family, but
How important is it to learn about your family's history?
there are many people who are not aware of their health problems,
Cool, but how important is it to learn about your family's history?
and at the age of 14 or 15 they might get sick and they didn't aware of it, so they didn't think about that, and they could
So, I can understand what we call underlying coherence, but you have to spell it out in very simple language. So, I think it's very important to understand your family's medical history. For example, there are some illnesses like heart disease and diabetes that are quite common in families. And I think if you know about this, then you can take measures to maybe stop yourself from getting these diseases. For example, with heart disease, we know it can be controlled by diet. So if you know that your father, your grandfather, and your great grandfather suffered from heart disease, then I think knowing about this can help you make the right dietary choices, right? This is what you mean, I think, but you're just not explaining it in such a clear way.
like that could be a big problem and they cannot handle it anymore.
And how important do you think it is for families to eat together?
Well, in the day and age, many people
Again, we get just not an explosion, but we get a production of sound which isn't, it's not intelligible, it's not understandable at all.
well, in the day and age,
So that's what I hear. So be careful, be deliberate, think about what you want to say and say it clearly.
many people tend to work a lot and they don't want
Cool, tend to work a lot. Nice bit of modality there, semi-modality.
to eat at night with their family members anymore. But from a perspective, that is the time that you and your family you could spend time to talk about their days, their stress, and at that time they could share very thought and maybe even they can release each other's stress.
They can relieve each other's stress. Fine. I noticed that Vietnamese candidates love using this term relieve your stress. Um, just appears in so many uh, Vietnamese language production, relieve the stress. I don't know if that's like a bit of vocab or a bit of language that they are encouraged to use, but okay, it works here. And do you agree that people nowadays prefer to spend their free time with their friends more than with their family?
Oh, to be honest, I really think that people should spend their time
It's not who they should spend their time with, it's does this happen? So this is descriptive, not prescriptive, not should it happen, but does it happen? So you're answering a different question. Like, I think they should, but the question is, do they, not should they? Friends more than with their family.
Oh, to be honest, I really think that people should spend their time with their friends. Like they're nothing to talk with my family member anymore, and you should talk with the
Kind of in contradiction to his previous point, right? Where previous point he was talking about how it's so important for families to sit together because this helps them to relieve stress and to find out about their day. And now he's saying, I have nothing to speak about with my family. So again, this for me is an example of a candidate who is taking a test. It doesn't feel like I'm speaking to the real Hiep. It feels like for each question, he's just producing an answer that he thinks is suitable for that question. But it does seem to be a little bit of a contradiction between questions, which isn't a big problem, but it does plant that idea in the examiner's mind that this isn't a person who's comfortable, speaking from the heart or speaking honestly, and the candidate needs to rely on some type of strategy or some type of template type answer.
others to broaden my horizons. To could say
And again, we get that broaden my horizons, which you can hear stands out from the rest of the language. And that, again, is a hint to me that that is memorized language. It's a bit generic. Just listen to how broaden my horizons stands out. It's not naturally delivered.
talk with the others to broaden my horizons. They could see a lot of things in the world. Maybe I just get out of my home and just talk to the people. So maybe that my education might be improved.
But we don't get that answer to the question of whether it's true or not that people prefer to spend their time with their friends instead of their families. So it's a couple of questions now in part three where we haven't really got the answer. And why does speaking with your friends broaden your horizons, but not with your family? So whenever I hear this like memorized language, if I have a chance in part three, I will go into that's the part that I will pick on because the candidate has chosen to use that broaden my horizons, and it's like, okay, demonstrate to me that you know what broaden my horizons means.
You speak with your family all the time, right?
But the candidate is comfortable.
Like if you are a teenager, you just
Love this use of impersonal you. You speak to your family all the time if you are a teenager. Nice.
spend with your family for 18 years, and because of that, I don't think we have any kind of ideas
Again, the language, the fluency is becoming a little bit, or maybe it's pronunciation too, is becoming a little bit chaotic again. Just notice.
if you are a teenager, you could spend with your family for 18 years, and because of that, I don't think we have any kind of ideas or any time talk together. Like it might be a little bit, but if you talk with your friends, you could learn more than just
So again, he's speaking a lot but not saying a lot, if that makes sense. He's using a lot of words, but I don't get, you know, you speak to your family. Okay, the main idea, you speak to your family a lot, you don't speak to your friends a lot, and so you can learn more, perhaps. But again, presenting your ideas in a clearer way is needed.
things in the house.
Let's talk more about friends now. Why do people sometimes stop being friends?
I believe that
Again, we get some unintelligible now. Why do people sometimes stop being friends? Yeah, so be careful with how you start your answers. Quite a few times now, you've started your answers with language production which is not understandable.
I believe that they could have something like controversy or conflict about it.
Cool. We know they could have controversy or conflict, but can you give examples? It's not enough to say, oh, they do it because they have controversy or conflict. Conflict about what? Controversy over what?
Ideas,
About ideas, okay, but what kind of ideas? Political ideas, and go in to give specific details, right? So there's obviously some type of conflict, like I think with money, that's a big one. Sometimes, if you're a friend, you might ask to borrow money from somebody and then they agree and then you can't pay them back on time, and this creates some type of feeling like it's betrayal or something, you're not a good friend, and then you avoid speaking to that person for a while and then they get angry. These are examples of conflict.
whenever they got something like that, they might be very aggressive with each other, and they don't believe that they have any common interest anymore, and they
Because of conflict, they get aggressive and then they don't believe that they have common interests. I don't see the logic there.
just broke up.
Not break up, but maybe fall out. You don't break up with your friends.
But to be honest, if someone can really can
Again, we get this to be honest, which, has been overused a little bit.
overcome that situation, they will be a very close friend.
Okay, but again, we don't get a full answer here to, what types of conflict cause these friendship breakdowns. And do you think it's always important for friends to have common interests?
Definitely not. It is a good way to strike up a friendship, but I don't think so.
Okay, it's a good way to strike up a friendship. Again, I feel like this strike up stands a little bit out, but okay, it's used in the right context. Yeah, good.
To be honest, it like it is a magnetism that you should
Again, we get a little bit of unintelligible language.
friendship, but I don't think so. To be honest, it like it is a magnetism
Magnetisms.
that you should have something that's different from your friends at that time. You might you might know that person more.
I think I'm just going to listen to one more answer and then I think I will go into scores. And do you think social media has been a good thing in making friends or a destructive thing?
I think that is a good improvement. Like social media give our society
Social media gives,
a lot of things like some applications like Telegram or even Discord that you can
or even Discord. I don't know about or even Discord here. So the candidate knows or even, but I don't see a reason to use this type of focus adverb or even Discord. I don't feel like it's used in the right context here.
you can
But it is an attempt at some nice language.
spend your time with your friends at home and even in any place, even without any kind of language. You can use some Google Translate to communicate with them.
Cool. All right. A little bit short, but okay, fair enough. And again, we didn't quite get into full details here. So part 3, the answers to part 3 are not quite as satisfactory as the answers to part 1. But I think we've heard enough, and I think we can go into the scores now. Yeah, so I'm going to give my scores. Fluency and coherence for me, 6. So a couple of points to make here. So you show... Oh, let's change back to white text. You show a willingness to speak at length. And in some answers, you develop well. However, sometimes there is a lack of detail in your development. And some connectives, or some, let's say, discourse markers, especially to be honest, the other one was because of that. So, some of those discourse markers are a little bit overused. There is also quite a chaotic feel to your flow of speech and many noticeable mid-sentence hesitations. Yeah, quite a lot of info. Lexical resource 7 for me. I think you show a good range, despite some inaccuracies. You show a very nice range of vocab, which allows you to speak about a range of topics with precision. You talk about that peak of the mountain, very precise vocab there. You have some strange things like to break up with your friends. Okay, it's not a big problem, but it is just a slightly odd choice. And there were a few other examples in there, but for me, you're at that band 7 with lexical resource. Grammatical range and accuracy, I'm going to give a 6 here. So in general, your mistakes don't lead to much confusion. However, you have some poor control of basic grammar, especially in part 2, with present simple, verb to be, things like this. So you have some poor control of basic grammar, and there's not really enough range for a 7. I think you are at band 6 for grammar. Pronunciation, again, I'm going to go with 6. So in general, most of what you say can be understood quite easily. However, some words are unintelligible, and you produce unintelligible means you can't understand it, and you produce unintelligible stretches of speech when beginning your answers sometimes. So sometimes at the beginning of your answer, it's like, I didn't quite get that. It's like, after that, you're fine. Sometimes there are also some unnatural pauses in your speech. Or, sorry, not unnatural pauses, but there are places where there should be pauses, and I like Vietnamese food. And it's like, whoa, it's just pause in the right place. So sometimes there are some of those cases. So for me, that brings this pronunciation down to a 6. Now, I don't see where the candidate can get 2 band 7s. For me, the overall score is a band 6, and I think the candidate is, this is one I found quite easy to mark. I thought the candidate is a band 6. I think he's a comfortable band 6. There are some places where maybe some people might give him a 5 for pronunciation. Some people might give him possibly a 5 for fluency and coherence, possibly. But for me, he has a 6.0 overall. However, Hiep actually took this test yesterday, and he got a score of 6.5, which means some examiner out there found 2 places to give him a 7. I don't know where, maybe grammatical range. I don't know. I have no idea. But one of them almost certainly was lexical resource. Maybe for fluency and coherence, maybe because the candidate does speak at length, maybe that impressed an examiner and gave him that 7, perhaps. But for me, it's a clear 6, clear B2. Areas of improvement. Be careful with how you begin your answers. Quite a few times you had question, and then you're looking around, and then you have like an excited explosion of speech, which is unintelligible, which cannot be understood. Also, try to calm down a little bit and control the flow of your speech. Sometimes it's very slow, and then sometimes it's super fast and high energy. Tried to speak in a more consistent, calmer way. I don't know if that advice helps you, if that's something you can control or not. And really, you have to eliminate your basic grammar errors. Now, you've already done the test, you've already got your 6.5, fine, but I'll still give this advice. You have to eliminate your basic grammar errors. You don't need a bit more variety, a bit more a few more complex structures would certainly help. But I really think the noticeable thing about your grammar is just that there are lots of those simple errors with verb to be and present simple that, are easily fixable. So yeah, for me, overall, band 6.0, B2, upper intermediate, a decent performance from the candidate. I don't think he is at the C1 level, so I don't think, an examiner could give him a 7. Could an examiner give him 6.5? Yes. Did a real examiner give him 6.5? Yes. But for me, the score is 6.0. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of this candidate's speaking. If you would like your own speaking test with this type of feedback, then you can request this on my Telegram channel. I also do free writing checks for IELTS tasks. So if that's something that interests you, again, join the Telegram channel. A link to that channel is given in the description below. But I will leave it there for now. Have a wonderful day and see you all soon. Bye-bye.